Welcome to the second part of the editing tutorial on the Orion Nebula. This is Claudio from the Astro, and in this part we will deal with the nonlinear stage of the image. We ended up the first part by saying that we would have used the HDR multiscale transform. I think that the HDR multiscale transform in our case and for this tutorial is going to compress a bit too much the core. So I think that we shouldn't use the HDR multiscale transform in the second part. Maybe I will show it. I will show you how to use it in the next tutorials, and I will input some keyframes in this video just to make it easier for you to skip to the part that you're interested in. The first keyframe will be on the IFN management, that is to say the faint dust surrounding Orion. The second keyframe is going to bring you to the editing and the management of the Orion Nebula and the Running Man Nebula. The third keyframe is going to deal with the small and fine adjustments, maybe sharpening the noise and minor curves adjustments. And the last keyframe is going to deal with star management. Okay, so let's start this tutorial. The first thing I'm going to do is to apply the local histogram equalization. What is the local histogram equalization? You can find it here. Okay, I already have my process here. The local histogram equalization is a tool that allows you to just improve and boost the contrast, not the contrast, but the micro contrast on your image. It's a very interesting tool, but you have to go easy because you can easily ruin your image if you input values that are too high. In my case, I'm going to use a kernel radius of 60, a contrast limit of 2, and an amount of 0.3. As you can see, this is the result. Let's see the before and let's see the after. It just removed the softness from our image, and now the result is and now our nebula is looking a bit crisper, and honestly I like it. Take a look also to this part of the surrounding dust of Orion, and I think it is looking a little bit better, in my opinion. Okay, let's apply it. It'll take just a little bit. Okay, let's close the LHE. Let's close the real-time preview. And now I am noticing some green areas here on my background. So I would like to remove it, to remove those areas, to reduce the green only in those spots. I am going to use the SCNR tool for this purpose. So you can go to Process, All Processes, and open SCNR. I'm going to input an amount of 0.7, which is to say I'm going to remove the 70% of green from my image. Remember to input green as color to remove. Okay, let's drag and drop the process on our image. Okay, and 70% of green has been removed. Now, what I'm going to do is to open Curves Transformation and to darken a little bit the background. I'm going to open this tool from here. You are going to open it on the same with the same exact procedure as always. And you are going to go to the RGBK channel. Okay, let's open the real-time preview. And you have to just to bring down a little bit this curve on the shadow portion, let's say, on the shadow side. Okay, as you can see, this curve adjustment is going to like darken a bit more the overall image, making the IFN a little bit more visible. So I like the result. I'm going to apply it, and I think that I like also this second darkening, so you can apply it twice. Okay, let's reset Curves Transformation and let's close it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that I would like to make all this faint dust a little bit more visible. I'm going to make a range mask, and so you have to open the range selection tool that we saw in the first part of the video. I will open it from here, and let's open the preview window. I am going to input a value in the lower limit of 0.15, and I'm going to increase the smoothness to 40. I'm going to check the screening method, and I'm going to create the mask. Okay, let's close the preview window and let's apply the mask to our image. Okay, now what are we going to do? We are going to open again the Curves Transformation tool. Let's open the preview window, and we are going to first of all set a point here in the mid value of the curve. So just click on the mid value of the curve, and then we are going to boost just a little bit, just a little touch, the shadows on our image. So let's take a look at the result. It is not going to improve a lot, but this is a very fine adjustment. Okay, so I'm going to apply this change, and I'm going to close the preview window. Okay, let's close the curves adjustment. Now I'm going to I want a little bit more of a saturation on my faint dust. So I'm going to open again Curves Transformation, and I am going first of all to increase the saturation on my image. So you have to go here on the saturation tool, and you just increase the curve, the saturation curve. Then I'm going to boost the CIE component. So you have to click this little icon right here, and I'm going to like just increase the curve of the CIE component. Don't overdo it because the CIE curve is gonna ruin your image and posterize your image in a very easy way. So just go easy on this curve, and I think that I like what I am seeing. So I'm going to apply this change. Okay. Now let's close curves transformation and let's close the real-time preview. I'm going to close also the range mask because I don't need it anymore. And I am going to show you a very useful script for this tutorial. And this is the selective color correction script. You can download the script by from the links that I've put in the description of my first video in the first part of the editing process. You have to go to script, toolbox, and go into selective color correction. Okay, let's open this script. And it may seem a very difficult script to use. There are many options, but we will just make small refinements. It's a very powerful tool. You can make real-time masks, for example, targeting the red, the green, the blue, the cyan, magenta, the low saturation, high saturation, the shadows, midtones, highlights, luminance, and so on. And you can also import your masks and export the masks that you see, that you make with this script. So first things first, I'm going to just target the IFN. So I'm going to select the shadows. Let's wait a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to show the mask. As you can see, the white areas are the areas that the program is that this script is going to target. So I think this is just fine. Just use here the standard settings. Okay, let's hide the mask. And what are we going to do? I am going to increase the luminance by 30 points. And wow, now you can see the faint dust definitely a bit more. And I'm going just to boost the saturation up to 100. Okay, and I think it's looking pretty fine. The next thing I'm going to do is to improve just a little bit the contrast. Okay, and I would like to add, just to make it more more visible, a little bit of red. Maybe 26 points are sufficient, or maybe just a little bit less are sufficient for the job. So let's apply the changes. Okay, let's wait a bit. Okay, and I think also that now we have too much magenta in our image. So I'm going to cut down most of the magenta, just to make this dust more of a brownish reddish color, which is the true color of the IFN of the Orion Nebula. So let's go on magenta. Okay, let's show the mask, and as you can see, it is targeting only the magenta. Don't worry if it's targeting also the Orion Nebula, because we will deal with the nebula later in the tutorial. So let's bring down the magenta to -54, And as you can see now, the dust is brown, and I'm going to add just a touch of red, maybe 10 points of red, and now it is looking very, very good. It's a very sweet image. I really like the quality of the Vespera Pro, and I'm going to apply the changes in to our images, to our image. Okay, and it's done. I think that I'm pretty fine with what I'm seeing. So let's see, maybe if we are going to, if we can, maybe, okay, no. I think this is just fine. The IFN is looking good, so I wouldn't touch it more than this, because otherwise you may overdo the image, and maybe you can ruin the background nebulosity. So let's deal with the nebula now. I'm going to show you a very interesting trick that you may use in your future editing processes. And this is the and this has to do with the with altering a range selection mask. What do I mean? Okay, let's open the range selection. Now we will deal just with the nebula. We will start with the Running Man Nebula, and then we will move to the Orion Nebula. Okay, on my range selection, I'm gonna input a lower limit of 0.4 and increase smoothness to 70%. Okay, I am going to create the mask. Maybe I can also, let's see if we can create, okay, maybe we can go with a value on the lower limit of 0.34. I think it's targeting more the nebula and more the Running Man. Okay, so I'm gonna apply it and create the mask. Okay, let's close the range selection. And how do we do? Like, I want to work only on the Running Man Nebula, so what can I do? I have to the trick that I use is to open the clone stamp, and I want just to wipe away the Orion Nebula from my mask, so that I can only target the Running Man Nebula. So let's open the clone stamp, let's click on our image, and you have to input a radius for your brush. You have to then click and hold the control key and click on a black area here on your mask. Then you are just going to move, to click and drag it over your Orion Nebula mask. You have to change the reference point of your brush, because sometimes it just gets to a very weird angle. So let's change the reference point, the reference point. Okay, and just go easy here next to the Running Man Nebula. Okay, and I think it's fine. I'm going to apply the change to our mask, and I'm going to apply the mask to our image. So what are we going to do with the Running Man Nebula? I'm going to open the curves transformation, and this might seem a mess. So let's start from the first thing that I'm going to do. So you go, first of all, you go on saturation and you bring up the saturation, because I think like the Running Man Nebula is a little bit desaturated. So just increase the saturation. Then I would like to add a little bit more blue to my Running Man Nebula. So you have just to go here on the blue channel and increase the blue on your Running Man. Don't add too much blue to your image, and also add a little touch of green, as it is making the color a little bit more of a teal color instead of a very strong blue. Then you can increase a little bit the contrast, the crispness of your Running Man Nebula, and you have to go to the RGBK curve. It's very important that you set a midpoint here in the center of your curve, and you just bring down the shadow curve. Okay, I think this is looking pretty good. As you can see, now the contrast is a little bit better. Okay, let's see the before and the after, and I think it's looking very fine. Okay, I'm going to apply it. Okay, and let's reset the curves transformation. I think that I can add a little bit more of saturation again on my Running Man Nebula. So you go here on saturation and you just boost a little bit more the saturation. Don't overdo it. Just go in with small changes to your image. Okay, I think this is fine. I'm going to apply it to my image. Okay, let's close curves transformation. Let's close the real-time preview. Just don't close this mask, because if you go back, okay, and we revert the mask to our original mask that we previously created, now we can just use again the clone tool. Okay, just to delete, just to remove the Running Man Nebula this time, so that we can work on the Orion Nebula. Okay, and I think it's pretty good. You don't have to be super perfect on these. Maybe I'm going to delete also this. You don't have to be super precise with your clone stamp on the mask. So let's close it and let's apply the mask. Okay, now on the Orion Nebula itself, I would like to just to add a little bit more contrast, just to darken it a little bit more. So just open the curves transformation, and you're going to use the RGBK channel just to bring down a bit more the shadows on the image. So let's open the preview and let's see the before and the after. And I think that now it does have a little bit more contrast. So I'm going to apply the change. Okay, and let's reset the curve. The next thing I'm going to do is to improve and to boost the saturation and the CIE component on our nebula. So let's go to saturation, and you have to bring up your saturation. Again, you can increase just a little bit more the saturation. I think this, oh, sorry. I think this is just fine. Okay, and you can boost the CIE component as well. Maybe this is looking pretty fine. So you can also zoom on the core. Don't worry, because we're dealing um, with this very purple spot at the core of Orion later in this tutorial. Maybe you can bring down a little bit the saturation. Okay, let's see the before and the after. Okay, I think it is looking pretty good, to be honest. Okay, let's apply the change. And let's deal with the core of with this purple core that just appeared on our image after boosting the saturation. So let's close this range mask, and let's open a new range mask with a range selection. Let's open the preview. I'm going to input a value of 0.84 and just bring down the smoothness level to 16.5 or around 16. Check the screening option and create your range mask. Okay. I'm going to apply the range mask to my image, and I'm going to open the curves transformation. On the curves transformation tool, I'm going to go to the CI component, and let's zoom on the core. I'm going to set a point in the mid part of my curve, and I'm going to bring down my my curve on the shadows. As you can see, okay, the color, the purple color, the purple color on the core of Orion has gone. If you see the before and the after, the result is totally different. You can, if you like a little bit of purple on the core, you can leave it like this, but I think it's just too much. So maybe I am going to lower it down to this extent. Okay. Let's take a look again. Maybe zoom a little bit more. I think it's fine. Let's apply the change. Let's close curves transformation. Let's close the preview and close also the range mask we created. Now we have to create okay, this is like what I pretty much do on my Running Man and on my Nebula, just small touches. I'm not going to overdo this nebula too much, so I think this is just fine. So I am going to now sharpen the image and to denoise the image, because during our editing process a little bit of noise, like we brought up a little bit of noise, so we have to reduce it, we have to suppress it. Go to range selection, Let's open the preview and make a range selection of a lower limit value of 0.42, a smoothness of 70. Let's create our range mask. Why am I doing so? Because I want to apply the sharpen only on my nebula, only on my Orion Nebula and on my Running Man Nebula. This is going to add a 3D effect because the faint nebulosity, the IFN, stays a little bit softer, whereas the nebula is popping more. So this mask ensures that the sharpening we are applying to our image is not going to be too harsh. I always apply sharpness to my images with with masks that are like a little bit blurred, so with the smoothness applied. Let's open now Blur Exterminator, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to check the luminance only option. This will target only the luminance inside inside the mask we have created, and it will add hopefully more sharpness and detail to our nebulosity. I'm going to bring up the sharpen non-stellar to a value of 0.6 and just apply the change, the process to your image. Okay. Let's wait a bit. It is almost finished. And it's done. Let's take a look. And now the sharpness is indeed a little bit better on our image. Let's go back to see the before and the after. I really think that now, especially on the core, the dust is showing more, and it's, in my opinion, more pleasant. I like it like this. Okay, let's close Blur Exterminator as we don't need it anymore, and close also the range selection and the range mask you created. Now I want to deal with the, I want to apply some denoise to my image, so I'm going to open Noise Exterminator. Check the intensity and color separation. I'm setting the noise intensity value of 0.65 and the noise color value of 0.80. Now just drag and drop your process on the image, and let's wait a bit. Okay, almost finished, and it's done. Now we are going to close Noise Exterminator. I think that the denoise is fine. Now we see less noise in our image. It is not too much denoised, so I really like this result. I'm going to show you another very interesting script, which is called Dark Structure Enhance. This script is going to enhance your like dark structures, dark speck of dust that you see in your image. So you can find it under script, utilities, and dark structure enhance. Okay. The script is very easy. I'm not going to touch these parameters, and you have to just decrease or increase the DSE parameter. I think that an amount of 0.4 is fine. Other times you have to use a much lower value, for example 0.25, but I am going to use a 0.4. Let's click OK. And let's wait a bit to see the result. As you can see now, your dark regions, your dark areas are showing a bit more, and it gives you a very 3D look, like as if the dusts are going out from of the screen. Okay, let's see the before and the after. And I think it's a very nice effect. Now I would like to increase a little bit more the highlights on my image. So I'm going to open the curves transformation, and I'm going to open the preview window. This time just go here on the luminance, on the lightness component. This is also adding a bit more more contrast to your image. You can take a look at the before and the after. Now the image is looking a little bit more punchy, and as well it is we are recovering the natural lightness of the Orion Nebula core. You just give a little touch here, because if you overdo too much, you're going to burn your image. Maybe just a tiny bit is fine, and you can bring down the shadow levels to add a little bit more of a dramatic effect, and to reduce the overall lightness of the background. I think this is fine. I'm going to apply it to my image. Now I would like to add a little bit more sharpness to my image, because I think it's a bit too soft. So I'm going to use a tool that is called Unsharp Mask. Let's open Unsharp Mask. Let's open the preview, and let's zoom on the core of our nebula. I'm gonna input a standard deviation value of 1 and an amount of 80%. You can also target the lightness, the luminance, and the RGB components as you like. The result is not changing a lot. Let's overdo, for example, the standard deviation value, and let's see how it changes our sharpening method. Okay. let's see the luminance. The luminance is going to make the dust a little, is going to sharpen the dark dust of your image. Let's take a look. Yes, it is going to darken the dust that you can see. I think that maybe the best method is to use let's zoom on the core. Okay, of course this is too much, but I am just overdoing it to see what the unsharp mask is going to target. I think that the lightness method is the best one, so I'm going to use just a value of 1.0. Don't overdo it too much. I just need a little bit more of saturation. Let's zoom and let's see the before and after. As you can see, the change is very, very subtle. So let's apply it and close the unsharp mask and its preview window. Now I'm going to create a core mask because I want to increase the lightness on the core of the Orion Nebula, because I think it's a little bit too compressed. So I'm going to open the range selection. We are going to make a mask on the core of the Orion Nebula. I think this is, let's see, a value of 0.47, maybe 46. Okay, it's fine. Increase the smoothness to 100 and create your mask. Okay, let's apply the mask to our image, and I'm going to increase the luminance, the lightness on my on the core. So I'm going to open the curves transformation tool. I'm going to open the preview, go to here to the CIE luminance component, and increase just the luminance on your Orion Nebula. Don't overdo it, just a little touch to show the nebula, to make the lightness a bit more gradual on your core. As you can see now, the result is much better, maybe just a little bit less. I think this value is fine. I'm going to apply the change, and I'm going to close the curves transformation and the preview window. Let's close also the range selection, and let's close the range mask we created. Now I just want to make the background more a little bit darker, because I think it's too bright in my opinion. So I'm going to open curves transformation and go to the RGBK curve. You have to set a midpoint here that is like an anchor point here on the mid value of the curve, and you just have to bring down the shadows on your curve. Okay, I think this is just fine. The more you go down on the shadows, like on your curve, the more this RGBK channel will target the darker areas. For example, I've set a point here and here, so I'm going just to move this third point very near to the end of the curve. If you go down, as you can see, you're only influencing the very dark areas on your image. Okay, don't overdo it. I think this value is just fine. Okay, let's apply the change. Let's reset the curve. Maybe the core was just too bright, so we are going to go here on the RGBK and to bring down just a bit the lightness. I think this is fine. Let's apply it. Let's close curve transformation and let's take a look at our core. I still think that the core is too pink, so I'm going to create another range mask of a value of 0.84 and a smoothness of 16.5. Maybe let's see if we can reduce a little bit. Okay, let's use a value of 0. Well, let's see. Yeah, 0.85 maybe. 0.86. Okay, let's apply the change. Let's close the preview window and let's apply the mask. We open again curves transformation. Let's open the preview window and go to the CIE component. Zoom on the core and just bring down the CIE component. As you can see, it was too pink. Just bring it down a little bit. And I think this is just fine. Now it's not pink anymore, maybe just a touch, but I don't want it to be completely white either, so I think this is just fine. Let's close curves transformation and now let's deal with the stars. Let's close the range mask and let's open our DBE stars. In order to stretch your stars, you're going to use a script from Astro, a very useful script that is called the star stretch. So let's go and open the star stretch and let's open the show preview window. The standard, I think that the standard value is just too much. The standard stretch amount is just too much because bigger stars are too bloated in my opinion, so I'm gonna lower down the value to, let's say, 4.32. I would like to remove the green via SCNR as well, and I refresh the preview. As you can see, the stars look much better, and I'm going to execute the process. Now, after we we have stretched our stars, we are going to improve, to boost a little bit more the saturation on our stars. So let's bring up the saturation. Let's bring it up another time. And maybe a little bit a third time. Let's zoom on our stars. Yeah, I think it is fine. I'm going to apply a third curves transformation. I'm going to close the preview window. And now we have our stars ready. I'm going to show you another very interesting script which helps you in correcting the magenta stars. As you can see, you're having a lot of magenta stars that I don't really like. So let's go to script. Let's go to utilities and open correct magenta stars. It is a very easy tool to use. You just set, you just put the target view, which is the DBE stars, and you just set an amount of magenta to be removed. For example, we can set a value of 0.85. You have to preserve the lightness and just click on execute, and it's done. Let's close the correct magenta. And as you can see, now you don't have magenta stars anymore. Yeah. Okay, maybe we can input a value, a much smaller value instead of 0.85. Okay. Let's open again the correct magenta stars. I maybe try to input a value of 0.7. Let's execute the script. Okay, and I think it is fine. Yes. Now we are going to create a clone of our image. Let's call this DBE just not to confuse you, and let's create a clone of our starless image. Now I'm going to open Pixel Math, and you're going to open the expression editor. You have to write this expression, and you have to put here as the first value your DBE image, and in the second value after the first comma your star image. You can see the images here. You can double click on it, double click on it, double click, and it changes the name automatically. Just click OK and go to your DBE image. Just drag and drop the triangle over your image. This is going to combine the starless image with the star image. Let's close Pixel Math, and I would like now to reduce a bit more the stars because I think that they are still too much bloated. So for this purpose, I'm going to show you another script for stars, which is the star reduction script. Okay, let's open the star reduction script. This is going to take a while. In this window on the star reduction script, you have to set your target view, which is your DBE image. You have to set the starless view, which is the DBE clone. Like, I mean, you have to set your composite image, that is to say the starless plus star image, and the DBE clone image in the starless view, and you have to click on initialize small star protection. This is because this script is a bit too aggressive on small stars. So you have to set a protection to the small stars. And of course, always select the star method as your reduction method, and you can increase the softness of the reduction. Let's take a look to these stars to see the difference. Let's increase, for example, the reduction, and this is going to reduce a bit more your stars. I think that a value of just 1 is fine, and I'm going to apply the star reduction. Maybe we just overdid the saturation on the stars. So if you don't like this halo right here, you can reduce the saturation on your stars, and you can combine it to your image, for example. Let's take a look at these. Okay, let's maybe decrease the saturation. Let's open curves transformation. Okay. And let's reduce just a little bit the saturation. Let's close curves transformation. You can easily remove your stars from the starless image by going back. You can open simply Pixel Math. Go to expression editor and input the new star field that the star reduction script has created. Apply it and drag and drop it over your image, and it's done. This is how I deal with my images. I think this is pretty good, and you can now crop the image. Go to process, all processes, and dynamic crop, and use the dynamic crop. Just drag and drop, just drag a square, or if you like a different framing, you can select a different area. I just want to delete these artifacts at the corners and the edges of my image. I'm going to set the algorithm as bicubic bspline. This is very important, and toggle gamma correction. Just execute. You will lose the astrometric solution, we know it, and the image is ready. This tutorial is finished, and I hope you liked the result. I hope that these steps and these tricks that I have shown you are going to help you in elevating your editing skills. I'm sorry for the very long tutorial, but it's very complicated to explain and to show at the same time. And if you, of course, if you liked, I would ask you to click a like and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see in the future many other upcoming tutorials. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye.